Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. What if I told you that everything you've ever worried about, every argument you've had, every moment of doubt that has crossed your mind about the nature of reality, exists on a pale blue pixel floating in the cosmic dark? What if the very act of questioning science isn't a threat to truth, but the most sacred expression of what makes us human? Tonight, as you look up at the stars, if you can still see them through the glow of our cities, you are participating in an ancient ritual. Your eyes are capturing photons that have traveled for years, decades, sometimes millennia to reach you. You are time traveling. You are touching the universe, and the universe in its infinite patience is touching you back. We live in an age where doubt has become currency, where skepticism has been weaponized, where the very foundation of how we understand our world is questioned not out of curiosity, but out of fear. But Carl Sagan taught us something profound. Doubt is not the enemy of science. Doubt is science's most faithful companion. The question is not whether to doubt, but how to doubt with wisdom, with compassion, with the humility that comes from recognizing our place in the cosmos. Picture this: February 14th, 1990, Valentine's Day. While lovers around the world exchange tokens of affection, something extraordinary is happening 6 billion kilometers away from Earth. The Voyager 1 spacecraft, humanity's most distant ambassador, turns its camera homeward for one last look. The engineers at NASA are nervous. This is not part of the primary mission. They're burning precious fuel, time, resources for what some consider a mere publicity stunt. But Carl Sagan had fought for this moment for years. He understood something that the skeptics didn't. Science is not just about collecting data. Science is about changing how we see ourselves. When that image came back, a pale blue dot, barely visible, suspended in a shaft of sunlight, everything changed. Not just for Sagan, but for everyone who truly saw it. There we were, all of humanity, every person who had ever lived, every dream ever dreamed, every love ever felt, existing on what Sagan would call a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The engineers who had called it a waste saw it and wept. The politicians who had questioned the funding fell silent. The cynics who had mocked the sentimental scientist found themselves staring at the image for hours, something stirring in their chests that they couldn't quite name. Sagan looked at that photograph and wrote words that would outlive him. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. This is what science does. It doesn't just give us facts, it gives us perspective, it gives us humility. It gives us the tools to see ourselves clearly, perhaps for the first time. If this perspective speaks to something in you, if you feel that stirring that those NASA engineers felt, then you're ready for a journey. Subscribe to this channel, not just for more videos, but as a commitment to seeing the world through the eyes of cosmic perspective. And tell me in the comments, what would change in your life if you truly understood your place in the cosmos? Science is not cold. Science is not distant. Science is not the enemy of wonder. Science is wonder's greatest ally. This is the first great misconception that Sagan spent his life dismantling. We have been taught to see science as the destroyer of magic, when in truth, science reveals magic hiding in every atom, every ray of light, every beating heart. When you understand that the calcium in your teeth, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your DNA were forged in the nuclear furnaces of stars that died before our solar system was born, how can you not feel connected to the cosmos? When you realize that you are quite literally made of star stuff, how can you feel alone in the universe? This is what Sagan called cosmic perspective, the ability to see yourself not as separate from nature, but as nature's way of knowing itself. You are not an observer of the universe, you are a participant. You are not outside the cosmic story. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself. But here's what makes this truly revolutionary. This perspective doesn't diminish you. It elevates you. It doesn't make you smaller. It reveals that you are part of something magnificent beyond comprehension. The same laws that govern the dance of galaxies govern the dance of thoughts in your mind. The same forces that birth stars birth your dreams. When people attack science, when they say it reduces us to mere machines, they reveal that they have never truly understood what science actually reveals. Science doesn't reduce mystery. It reveals deeper mysteries. Science doesn't destroy meaning. It unveils meaning written in the language of mathematics, in the poetry of physics, in the symphony of chemistry that plays in every living cell. So here's my question for you. What if your deepest fears about meaninglessness are backwards? What if the very act of questioning, of doubting, of seeking to understand, is proof of the universe's magnificent complexity? What if consciousness itself, your consciousness, is the universe's greatest achievement? Think about this for a moment. In all the vastness of space, across all the billions of years of cosmic history, arrangements of matter and energy have evolved that can contemplate themselves. You can think about thinking. You can wonder about wonder. You can love the very fact that you can love. Is this accident or is this miracle? When you lie awake at 3 a.m. questioning everything, when you stare at the stars and feel overwhelmed by the immensity of it all, when you wonder if any of this matters, do you realize what you're doing? You're engaging in the most sophisticated behavior we know of in the universe. You're participating in cosmic evolution's greatest experiment, self-awareness. But perhaps you've been told that science will take this away from you. Perhaps you've heard that understanding how your brain works will somehow cheapen love, that knowing how stars form will dim their beauty, that learning the mechanisms of life will drain it of purpose. This is not just wrong, it's backwards. Imagine trying to convince a musician that understanding harmony will ruin music. Imagine telling an artist that learning about color theory will destroy beauty. Imagine suggesting to a lover that understanding the biochemistry of affection will diminish their feelings. It's absurd, isn't it? Carl Sagan gave us a blueprint for living with cosmic perspective, not a philosophy born from books or abstract theories, but a methodology forged in the crucible of scientific discovery and tempered by profound humility before the cosmos. First, cultivate radical curiosity. Sagan believed that curiosity was not just a trait, it was a survival skill for our species. But not the shallow curiosity that flits from trend to trend, from headline to headline. Radical curiosity, the kind that makes you stop in the middle of your day to wonder why the sky is blue, and then actually seek the answer. The kind that makes you question not just what you believe, but why you believe it. This is the curiosity that led Galileo to point his telescope at Jupiter and discover moons that shattered the notion of an Earth-centered universe. This is the curiosity that made Marie Curie spend 4 years stirring vats of pitchblende to isolate a teaspoon of radium, changing our understanding of matter itself. This is the curiosity that drove Sagan himself to spend decades searching for signals from other civilizations, even when colleagues called it career suicide. Radical curiosity asks uncomfortable questions. It doesn't accept because that's how it's always been as an answer. It looks at the familiar until it becomes strange, and at the strange until it becomes familiar. It turns every day into an expedition, every conversation into an opportunity for discovery. Second, practice the art of cosmic scale. When was the last time you truly contemplated your place in space and time? Not as an abstract exercise, but as a lived experience. Sagan gave us tools for this contemplation, the cosmic calendar, where all of human history occupies the last few seconds of December 31st, your entire lifetime, a fraction of the last second. But this isn't meant to diminish you, it's meant to calibrate you. When you understand that the light from the nearest star has been traveling for over 4 years to reach your eyes, the argument you had this morning takes on a different character. When you grasp that the atoms in your body were forged in stellar furnaces billions of years ago, your connections to every other living thing become visceral, undeniable. Practice this daily. Look up. Really look up. Let yourself feel small, not as diminishment, but as perspective. Let yourself feel connected, not as sentiment, but as scientific fact. Third, master compassionate skepticism. Here's where Sagan was most revolutionary. He taught us that skepticism without compassion becomes cynicism, while compassion without skepticism becomes gullibility. The goal is not to tear down every belief, but to hold our beliefs lightly enough that they can evolve when new evidence emerges. Compassionate skepticism asks, what would it take for me to change my mind? It approaches disagreement not as war, but as an opportunity for mutual discovery. It recognizes that being wrong is not a failure. It's the first step toward being more right. This is the skepticism that questions authority while respecting expertise. That distinguishes between the healthy doubt that drives science forward and the corrosive doubt that paralyzes action. That maintains wonder while demanding evidence. Let me tell you about Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian physician who in 1847 noticed something disturbing in his hospital. The maternity ward run by doctors had a death rate of 18%, while the ward run by midwives had a death rate of only 2%. The difference was hand washing. The doctors were performing autopsies and then delivering babies without washing their hands. When Semmelweis instituted mandatory hand washing with chlorinated lime solution, the death rate plummeted. But instead of celebration, he faced ridicule, ostracism, and eventually a mental breakdown. The medical establishment couldn't accept that they, learned men of science, could be the cause of the very suffering they sought to heal. This is what happens when ego becomes more important than evidence. Semmelweis died in an asylum, vindicated only decades later when germ theory was accepted. But here's the lesson Sagan would draw. Science is not about being right the first time. Science is about being willing to be wrong, to change course, to let the universe teach us rather than imposing our preconceptions upon it. Consider the story of Barbara McClintock, whose groundbreaking work on genetic transposition was dismissed for decades because it didn't fit the prevailing paradigm, or Rosalind Franklin, whose X-ray crystallography work was crucial to understanding DNA structure, but who was marginalized because she was a woman in a male-dominated field. Each of these stories teaches us the same lesson. Truth has its own timeline, independent of our convenience or comfort. The universe doesn't care about our theories, our reputations, or our deadlines. It simply is what it is, waiting patiently for us to develop the tools and the humility to understand it. But when we do align ourselves with truth, when we surrender our small certainties for vast possibilities, extraordinary things happen. We split atoms and heal diseases. We map genomes and detect gravitational waves. We send messages to the stars and discover planets around distant suns. Every technology you depend on, every medical treatment that has saved a life, every communication device that connects you to loved ones across the globe, all of it emerged from this process of humble questioning, rigorous testing, and brave revision of our understanding. But here's what keeps me awake at night, and what should concern every thinking person. We live in an age where the very method that gave us these miracles is under attack. Not from ignorance. Ignorance can be educated, but from willful rejection of the process of understanding itself. We have created a world so dependent on science and technology that it would collapse without them. Yet we've somehow convinced ourselves that the methods that created these tools are optional, debatable, matters of opinion rather than systematic approaches to understanding reality. This is not just intellectually dishonest, it's dangerous. Climate change, pandemics, nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, the challenges facing our species require scientific thinking, not wishful thinking. They require the humility to accept inconvenient truths, not the comfort of confirming biases. When we reject the methods of science, we don't just reject abstract knowledge. We reject our best tools for survival. We reject the very approaches that could help us become wiser, more capable, more worthy of the cosmic inheritance that 4 billion years of evolution has given us. Sagan warned us about this in his final book. We've arranged a global civilization in which most crucial elements profoundly depend on science and technology. We have also arranged things so that almost no one understands science and technology. This is a prescription for disaster. That disaster is not some distant possibility. It's happening now. It's happening when people reject vaccines during a pandemic. It's happening when we ignore climate scientists' warnings about our planet's future. It's happening when we choose comfortable lies over difficult truths. So here's my challenge to you. Become a guardian of the pale blue dot. Not through political activism or social media campaigns, but through the simple, radical act of thinking scientifically. Question your assumptions. Demand evidence. Change your mind when the evidence changes. Practice the discipline of being wrong gracefully and being right humbly. If you've come this far with me, if something in these words has resonated with the stardust in your bones, then you're ready for a commitment. Not to me, not to this channel, but to the universe that made you possible. Subscribe, but not just to get notified of new videos. Subscribe as a declaration that you choose curiosity over certainty, evidence over ideology, wonder over cynicism. Subscribe as a commitment to the cosmic perspective that transforms every day into an opportunity for discovery. And tell me in the comments, what's one belief you're willing to hold lightly? What's one question you've been afraid to ask? What's one way you're going to practice cosmic perspective this week? Your answer might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear, because here's what Sagan understood, that we sometimes forget. We're not alone in this. Every person who has ever looked up at the stars and wondered, every child who has asked why until the adults ran out of answers, every scientist who has spent their life chasing truth regardless of convenience, we're all part of the same cosmic story. In the end, what Carl Sagan gave us was not just a way of understanding the universe, but a way of being worthy of it. He showed us that we are not the center of the cosmos, but we are central to our own cosmic story. We are not the purpose of the universe, but we may be the universe's way of understanding its own purpose. Think about that for a moment. In all the vastness of space and time, matter has arranged itself in such a way that it can contemplate matter. Energy has organized itself so completely that it can study energy. The universe has become conscious of itself through us, and we have become conscious of the universe through science. This is not arrogance. This is the deepest humility. This is not human exceptionalism. This is cosmic participation. We are not separate from nature, studying it from the outside. We are nature studying itself from the inside. Every time you choose evidence over prejudice, every time you admit you don't know something, every time you let your mind be changed by reality, rather than forcing reality to conform to your mind, you are participating in the universe's most magnificent experiment, the growth of consciousness, the expansion of understanding, the evolution of wisdom. Sagan once said that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself, but I think it's more than that. We are a way for the cosmos to choose itself, to decide what kind of universe it wants to become, through our choices, through our commitment to truth, through our willingness to be both humble and brave in the face of the unknown. We are writing the next chapter of the cosmic story. So the next time someone tries to convince you to doubt science, remember this. Doubt is not the enemy of science. Lazy thinking is. Skepticism is not the opposite of wonder. Rigid dogma is. The choice is not between faith and reason, but between the courage to keep learning and the comfort of thinking you already know everything. Look again at that pale blue dot. See it not as a speck of dust in an indifferent universe, but as the most extraordinary event we know of, a place where the cosmos has awakened to itself, where stardust has learned to dream, where the universe has opened its eyes and started to understand its own beauty. You are that awakening. You are that dream. You are those eyes. And nothing will ever make you doubt the sacred responsibility and boundless wonder of being conscious in a cosmos that has given you the gift of consciousness itself. The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine, and that's not a limitation. That's an invitation to keep wondering, keep questioning, keep discovering who we are and where we're going. Together, on this pale blue dot, suspended in a sunbeam, spinning through the cosmic dark, toward whatever magnificent destiny awaits a species brave enough to seek truth wherever it leads.